From the heart of Dubai, this is Sports Unhinged with Mohamed.
And we are on. Hello and welcome to Sports Unhinged. My name is Mohamed, and however you might be listening to us today, whether it's on SoundCloud, iTunes, your Apple Podcast app, Stitcher, Facebook, or YouTube, we are glad that you can be here with us. It's our 10th episode, a milestone episode. And we have two guests for the price of one today. Mark the Bear Sherman, who is a Chicago Bears fan, living in Dubai for, 10 years now?
10 and a half years,
Since the 1870s.
Yeah. That's how long he's been supporting the Bears for. And we've got Ujitha Dasanaika, who is the founder and commissioner of Pick 4 Fantasy.
Trying to keep that quiet, but
NFL Pick'em's website
great thing
here in Dubai. Welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank
Mohamed Raccoon Kamis, man. It's good to be here, yo.
We had to start there. All right, for people that don't know the story behind this, I made the mistake of sharing this with these guys, that I'm in a NFL
Amongst
fantasy
other
league.
Yeah, he's doing really well. Really, really well. You heard?
I have.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
What is it? 0-50? Is it? What is it?
I'm 1-8 in my fantasy
Well,
league.
same thing,
And
yeah.
whoever finishes last in that fantasy league has to wear a raccoon outfit and get shot with paintballs. So I'm the front runner for that.
You are going to win that.
You are. Yeah.
It's the only thing you will win
We're very
this year.
proud to be here.
To be associated.
Very close to him as well, yeah.
All right, guys.
Nice setup here, Mohamed. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Good.
guys.
Very cool.
It's great, and hopefully when we get the video set up and we go live on YouTube,
You'll never have us back again.
People
we'll make
don't
sure
want
that
to
you're
see
the
us.
first guys back here, depending how today goes.
Yeah, bye. One and done.
We've got a packed show today. We're going to be covering the trade deadline drama in the NFL. We'll talk a little bit about the division-by-division mid-season review, and we'll finally wrap it up with some of the NFL awards. Who do we expect to go for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, etc. So let's get started.
Let's go.
I'll start with the Tom Brady situation right now in the Patriots. The Patriots traded away Jimmy Garoppolo to the San Francisco 49ers. I mean,
It was a swap for Brian Hoyer in the end, really, wasn't it? You know,
they put all their chips in.
and a second.
I think what happened is that Kraft and Belichick probably just looked at each other one day and said, you know what? We're just going to go all in on Brady this year.
At the end of the season, they were going to get nothing. So they got something.
You gotta think that Belichick maybe knows something about Garoppolo that the rest of the world doesn't.
He doesn't let good players leave.
Yeah, we've never seen a player that's left the
Exactly.
Patriots and
So-
turned out to be a star or anything.
No.
So
Let's see how that works for Jimmy in the 49ers.
Good luck to him. You know, but he's got a small CV. You know, he could be Mike Lennon.
right, you never know. It's such a small sample that we've seen of him right now. Now, I think the way that the Patriots might have looked at it is that if Tom Brady goes down for any reason, they just go into rebuild mode.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations. And rumors are already out that Belichick has already identified a quarterback in next year's draft that's not one of the obvious ones. We're not talking about the JT
suspense.
Barrett.
Yeah, but
Suspense.
Brady was a seventh or something. So and the quarterback class next year supposedly is pretty weak.
Yeah.
So if he gives up a fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh pick
It doesn't matter.
for the future franchise QB, that's Belichick all over. That's what he does.
Right.
You know, he'll go to the nearest McDonald's and find the next wide receiver.
And then it'll be great.
But now we're seeing that, obviously, San Francisco, when they cut Hoyer, that kind of saved the Patriots a pick or two. So they managed to pick him up
It's
for
too much of a
almost nothing.
coincidence. I just feel, you know, I'm really
It was too
suspicious
easy
about
at the
stuff
end.
like this. I just think that the deal was done and Belichick or Kraft or someone just said, look, you cut Hoyer, we'll take him off your payroll. You take Jimmy G, and away we go. Everyone's happy. We move on.
I remember Cousins was in the mix as well
Right.
for a while at the Niners, going back to Kyle.
But Cousins lost a lot of leverage now because he wanted to
Yes.
go to San Francisco.
Well, what's he going to do next year? You know, at the
That's
end of
they
this
can't
year,
franchise tag him again,
no.
can they?
So they either say to him, "Thanks very much, goodbye,"
Right.
or "Here's $100 million guaranteed."
And
It's a
they've
big
been
call.
spending too much on him right now with all the franchise tags. year on
25
year.
million this year.
Yeah.
You know,
Can
it's
afford
serious
that
cash.
next year.
I'm not sure. You know, Mike Justice,
Well,
one of
they
our
do?
guys, he's a big Redskins fan. He's fairly convinced that they'll stay.
A little shout out for Mike here.
Yeah, so he's fairly convinced that Cousins will stay. I'm not as convinced, I've got to be honest. But they've got nobody else there, and they've got a chance of getting 8-8 this year. I don't think they're going to do much more than that. But that's something to build on for next year. It really
Absolutely.
is. And what they don't want
For
to
the
do
Redskins.
is, if they don't,
They got problems in the offensive line. They need to protect Cousins.
Yeah, but you know, if you go 8-8 this year and you keep Cousins, you've got a chance then of going up to a 10-6
Yeah, but to
team.
be fair to the Redskins, they've had a lot of injury problems.
Oh, terrible.
Right.
Terrible.
I don't think the offensive line that played week 1 is what played week 9.
None of them.
So they don't really know each other, the schemes.
You know,
so they got those issues.
if they had their first choice offensive line, what would they be doing? Would they have given Eagles a better match and stuff like this? We don't know. We don't know. Yeah. So, but if they can do 8-8 or 7-9 this year with the injuries that they've had,
Right.
fantastic credit to the Redskins. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be seen as a step in the right direction for them. Going back to the Patriots, next year they get a pick in the 30s, I believe, one of the 30-something picks. They keep a 4th-round compensatory pick, and they got Hoyer, who's an experienced quarterback that's kind of familiar with the system. So, I mean, I think it's a good piece of business that they did there.
It's great business. Hoyer is a reasonably safe pair of hands. He's not going to win you many games, but he's also not going to lose you many games. So it's a good trade for New England again. Mm-hmm. Really.
Houston.
What a mess.
You know what? It's sad for the NFL.
Right.
What's happened to Watson. It's not just for the Texans. Most likely MVP, if not the Rookie of the Year, for sure.
Certainly in the running.
He was my Rookie of the Year until he got injured. Yeah.
Last 4 games, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they got rid of Brown, who went to Seattle. I didn't understand that because...
Well, Seattle had problems in that tackle position, so much needed for
I actually think it's a good trade for Houston, personally.
You do?
Yeah. Brown's 32.
He was very outspoken as well. He's one of the...
So, you know, Pete Carroll will deal with him. They got a third next year, 2018, and a second in 2019.
It's because the Jeremy Lane thing didn't work out.
And Jeremy Lane,
he went back, didn't he?
Yeah, and then Seattle get a 5th next year. 32 years old, I think it's a reasonable price. But Seattle kind of needed him because without him, their line would have struggled this year.
Right.
Seattle needed that. Seattle needed
you know, they had a bad loss last weekend against Washington at home. Not a game they'd expected to lose. So they kind of needed to put a body in.
Now, Ujitha, you're an Eagles fan. And I think one of the most dumbfounding trades in the trade deadline was Jay Ajayi coming to you guys from Miami.
First touchdown in the game, in the Eagles game.
Yeah.
Right? He's been with the
Dolphins.
That's how excited I am about
exactly,
that.
Yeah. Calm down.
So he's had his problems with Adam Gase, obviously.
Yeah.
Eagles already have a great backfield. Yeah. But, you know, with Sproles out and everything, why not strengthen it up? I think he's going to be a good fit in that backfield for Doug Peterson.
Well, you've got 3 decent players now. You can spread the load. You can keep them healthy, hopefully. You know, you've got Clement and you've got Blount as well. So the only question mark about Ajayi is his knees. He had an operation 6 years ago. But he's on a $670,000 salary.
It's almost no risk whatsoever.
Nothing at all.
If he plays 4 or 5 games this year and blows out, and I hope he doesn't. I really, really hope he doesn't. I hate injuries for everybody. But if that happened, they've still lost nothing. They've got plenty of cap space. It's a 670,000. You know, and what did they get for him? A fourth or something?
Round, yeah.
So
round and a ham sandwich. That's what they got.
Well, I think it was the sandwich actually that kind of swung it. You know, knowing Adam Gase, I think the ham sandwich would have swung it. So, all in all, I think it's a great trade for Philadelphia. Miami wanted him out of the building, so it's a good trade for them as well.
Right.
So, from the outside looking in, you just say they didn't want him. Philadelphia did.
But then,
Move on.
do you think that there's space for criticism for Adam Gase there? Because he was trying to make a point. He's trying to put his foot down.
Well, he's fed up with his offense, obviously.
But then
he's
that's
been
the
talking
thing.
about it.
It's like he's sending a message, get your act together, otherwise I'll send you to the best team in the NFL.
I don't have a problem with a strong head coach.
Right.
And this is his first year. So this year, he's got more power than he will have next year. And if they're 4-4 at the moment, let's say they finish at 8-8, they're not going to get to the postseason. They're not going to disgrace themselves. So he can get the roster that he wants. So if he didn't want him, move him out. Get something for him. He got fourth and a ham sandwich. Good luck to him. Maybe at the end of the year, he wouldn't have got anything. He'd have just cancelled his contract.
Maybe.
They've had 2 shutout games this season. So it's frustrating for a coach, obviously.
Yeah.
So if he wants to take it out by sending his best running back to the Eagles.
Yeah. You're not complaining,
they're out
are
of
you?
conference, so it works for him.
Exactly. It's not as though he shipped him out to New England or the Jets or somewhere when he can come back and hurt.
Yeah.
The chances, I don't know if they're going to play the Eagles next year. He won't care about that, even if they were. So I think it's a good trade all round yet again. So no problem with it.
Here's one that baffled me as a Panthers. Yep, you guessed it.
Over to you, the Panthers fan.
Yeah, let it all out, Mohamed. Let it all out.
For a 3rd and a 7th pick. And
no ham sandwich.
No ham sandwich, exactly. And what surprised me more is that the next day you listen to the Colin Cowherds, you listen to the Stephen A. Smiths and all of these guys on TV. And I don't know how they seem to think it's a good move by the Panthers. Because the way that I'm seeing it right now, Cam Newton is struggling. I'm going to talk about him in a bit when we get to the division-by-division review.
Great. We'll just sit and listen.
We can.
But Kelvin is Cam's biggest target.
Yeah.
And you just took that out. Yes, you want to go with the more speedy receivers like Samuels, like Shepard. But still, you could have gotten a lot more value for him at the end of the season, because he would have still been your number 1 receiver for that team. Yes, there were rumors out there that he was, overweight in the offseason. He's walking around at 280 pounds. He's a bit immature. Cam is being a little bit immature, and they're best friends. So they kind of wanted to break that up. But if this is part of a longer plan to actually replace Cam Newton, fine, go to it. But I don't think the Panthers are going to do that. I've been to Charlotte, and this guy is seen as the hero of the city over there.
If you don't replace Cam with Brady, then you're putting yourself under a lot of pressure.
I understand.
You really are.
I mean, but either we go into full rebuild mode. I didn't see how this move made sense at all.
What does it do to guys like Funchess, right? I mean, it increases their workload.
It does. And one of the arguments was that both Funchess and Benjamin are big receivers. And so that they're very similar. So they're getting rid of that. Okay, make these moves at the end of the season. We were I think 5-3 at the time. Don't mess with the chemistry that's already barely kind of working over there. So he's created Cam is the kind of guy who whines and throws tantrums, and he's very immature about that. So you remove his best friend in the middle of the season, and all of a sudden the guy that you're counting on to make the plays for you, he's not all there mentally to deliver during the games.
But maybe Benjamin wasn't all there in the games, and
it was obvious.
We
apparently he wasn't surprised about the trade.
Well, he was kind of asked Carolina about the trade, wasn't it? His first press conference in.
I really think your problem is going to be with the workload. I've already McCaffrey. He's over.
They're running him into the ground, and he's only a rookie.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
And now you got Funchess probably will have to, take up whatever Benjamin's been doing. So, end of the season they could be worn out.
They will be by the time they get to the playoffs. I mean,
the running game.
When they get to the playoffs.
Well, I don't know. But
if they get to the playoffs.
The running game's really gone to pot this year in Carolina.
I have Jonathan Stewart in one of my fancy teams, and he gets me negative yardage every single week. That is why you are 1-8.
So you need to get rid of him.
That's why I'm the raccoon right now.
Exactly, absolutely.
Wash that raccoon suit.
No, I just think Rivera or someone, general manager wanted him out and got something for him and thought, fine.
It's funny. Coincidentally, we've gone from the best trades, and it's like a scale, and we've gone down that scale to the
But that's
very
what
worst.
happened on that Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was a hold my beer day. Wasn't it?
Started with
It was
Garoppolo.
like, nah, wait a minute, Ajay is happening.
No, but then you had the
Benjamin.
AJ McCallum stuff.
And that's where I was going. I'm like,
exactly.
let's-
Well, that was Browns being the bloody Browns.
Exactly. they that was just, and I just made a note here. Typical Cleveland.
Yeah.
They just cannot
Missed
even
the
sign
deadline.
a piece of paper. It's just dreadful. It's so
You know,
unprofessional.
if you go back and look at what Cleveland have given up in terms of Carson Wentz, Julio Jones, back when he was in the
all the Browns fans know this, and they're just sitting at home
it's crazy,
thinking,
isn't it?
what is going on? And they've got Kaiser now. And
who's struggling, and
Yeah, but he's not
quarterbacks
being
don't get
coached
time to
well.
develop anymore.
He's
They-
not being coached well. He's a rookie. Leave him in for 6-7 games. Don't bench him because he's had 2 bad ones. And this is the issue I've got with what's going on with quarterback development at the moment. You cannot take someone from University of Southern California or wherever and suddenly expect them to be NFL. Look at Wentz last year. He,
come on, we're not going to go down.
No. I'm just saying. Don't get upset. The reality.
You can't believe
I'm done.
Good.
What are you,
I'm done.
7-1, 8-1?
Exactly.
You're
Yeah,
so
but-
happy. Like, don't mess with that. Don't talk about my
Wentz
ego.
last year, they allowed him to throw 600 times and make his mistakes, and look at the benefit you're reaping this year from him.
Right.
I'm being kind to you. I'm not having a go. They gave him all 16 games and said, get on with it. You have a bad
Win,
game, don't
lose.
worry. We'll play again next weekend.
Absolutely.
And
So he had other issues. We didn't have Lane Johnson on the line. That affected him a lot
exactly,
as
but
well.
they allowed him time to develop. Kaiser's not getting a minute to develop. Trubisky in Chicago, he missed the first 4 games despite having a great pre-season.
Yeah, that was nuts. I mean,
It's crazy. It wasn't a competition.
Even in Dubai, we were crying out for Trubisky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just madness. And the NFL coaches, head coaches, have got to understand, you take someone out of university, you've got to give them at least half a season. Let them make the mistakes. If Trubisky, Bears are playing Green Bay at the weekend, and if Trubisky throws a couple of interceptions, sure, I'm going to be upset. But
see
it's
that?
part of his growth.
Look,
It's part of his development.
The difference, the Eagles, they went all out for Carson Wentz.
Absolutely.
They threw everything to get that trade
Yeah.
done. And then, he's our franchise QB, and they've been saying it from the start.
Yeah.
So whether he plays bad or not, they're going to keep him
But
in.
the Bears traded up one space. They went from 3rd to 2nd. Ultimately, it cost them a 3rd-round pick next year.
Yeah.
With all the bits and pieces. It's cost them a 3rd. So the GM has said, he's my man. Pace has said, he's my
Just
man.
still started Glennon.
It's complete and utter madness.
Especially
and
how
that's what's frustrating.
seeing how bad Glennon was in those games. He didn't even look remotely like
That's what I'm
But
saying.
you
I
see,
mean,
a
we saw
quarterback.
that in pre-season.
it was a
And then-
no-brainer.
It was, and it's a John Fox move, and that's why you've got things like Firefox going on the internet, on Twitter, bearsbarroom.com, fantastic website, great podcast. Sorry, Mohamed, but no, it's
No competition, yeah.
it's a Chicago Bears thing.
Yeah.
They do great work, really great work, and they've started this Firefox campaign, and I'm all with it because we've gone
they
in.
got to fire him now because,
Well, no,
Mark's
but-
all with it.
Exactly. So.
Now, clearly, there's a deficit in good quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the question that keeps coming up is Colin Kaepernick. How is it that he still doesn't have a job right now?
I'll tell you one thing.
Because he's taken everyone to court.
Well, but
He's
look,
not gonna play again.
When
Sorry.
these quarterbacks, when the franchises keep taking quarterbacks, trading quarterbacks, and they're not Colin Kaepernick, this strengthens his collusion case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got Colin Kaepernick. You know that he's good, but he's still sidelined.
And just before we started recording the podcast, a headline came out from Bleacher Report saying that Bill O'Brien and McCarthy are going to be deposed in the collusion case.
So-
What do you think the end objective here? Because picking a quarterback is based on merit.
What's the end objective for Colin Kaepernick? I mean, what is he
That's the
trying to
question.
achieve here?
Is he trying to get into Trump's phone calls? Or
Yeah,
I mean,
what is he trying to
he's
do?
trying to
I
raise
mean-
his profile, keep his profile high. He's not going to throw another down in the NFL.
he's writing a book already.
He can't. Who's going to take him on?
But see, the argument is, instead of, keeping him out, bring him into a team and let him sink or swim based on his own merits.
You know, Houston should have snapped him up a month ago.
You know, to be fair to franchises, you know, they'll probably wonder how he's going to gel with all the stuff that's going on. He comes in, he's the play caller, he's your main guy.
But half of the players are already kneeling during the national anthem. I think some teams will...
then you're going to build fractions inside your locker room.
Texans,
and then,
I think...
you know, would you want to get into that? That's another question franchises will have
After
to ask,
Bob
right?
McNair's comments, all but 6 players in the Texans were kneeling down. I think that would have been a perfect fit. Deshaun Watson goes down.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you could just
I
snap
think he
him up.
should have been in there fairly early to be the backup to Watson. And
now
they would
that
have made a statement.
Bill is deposed, that's not going to happen, is it?
No, exactly. So who's going to take him on? Who
Yeah.
would you want him in Philadelphia? Do you want him in Carolina? Do I want him in Chicago? There's always that fear that he's going to split the dressing room, which you've just said.
Yeah.
And
if you look at the statistics, though, from his last performance,
he's
he
a
was
decent player. He's a decent player.
He's a good
4.0
quarterback.
touchdown to interception
Great
ratio.
arm.
You know,
He can
what was he
run.
last year? Top 20 or something.
You would put him, if you put him in today's quarterbacks, he would fit at number 19, middle of the pack. He'll be better than Hundley, Trubisky, Simeon, Newton,
No, he wouldn't be better
Dalton,
than Trubisky.
Flacco,
No.
Brissett.
Trubisky's a rookie who's
Yeah.
developing. I'm not going to put his name in this conversation.
But I'm just saying, for the quarterback.
Settle down.
You guys are so sensitive. You know? I want to get rid of Cam Newton already.
Yeah, just have some water.
The guy he's played 4 games.
Yeah.
He's thrown 80 passes. Goodness me.
Yeah, but like you said, they got to give him a chance.
Yeah.
It's worked out for Wentz.
Yeah, exactly. Wentz averaged 40 passes or 38 passes a game last year. Trubisky's averaging 20. So he's getting twice the experience, and he's played 4 games more. So I like what Philadelphia, and this is what you're missing, I like what Philadelphia did with Wentz. They stuck with him, whatever. If you had a bad game, don't worry about it, mate. You can play again next Sunday.
And they were ready to do that. You know,
Yeah,
from
that's
when
what they did.
picked him up, they said, "No, this is our quarterback, and we're going to stick with him."
They threw a lot of trades and a lot of picks and stuff at him, and they did a fantastic trade with the Vikings to get rid of Bradford, who's now on IR.
Yeah.
Apparently, is he coming back?
No, he's on IR.
He's on IR now. He's done.
Bridgewater's been activated tonight. So, good luck. I think it was a brilliant bit of housekeeping by your GM. So
I think...
Oh, they've done well for the last couple of years.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
They built something. And
they
this
did
year,
well
they
this
won't
year
have
as
a
well.
better chance of winning it all.
I don't know if
I'm
you've
gonna-
seen any of the Sound FX clips that have come out from last week. You just see that chemistry between the head coach at the Eagles and
Yeah.
the players. It's just working. It's clicking on all cylinders.
We're
right
going to talk about Coach of the Year later.
Yeah.
He's got to be up there.
Absolutely.
He's got to be.
He is.
Now, before we go into division by division, let's talk a little bit about the commissioner, Roger Goodell. You're not going to get sensitive here now because you're a commissioner. Right?
You know, you said commissioners. I got all worked up here.
So, obviously, there's contract renewal talks right now with Roger Goodell, and we've seen Jerry Jones along with 16 other owners that have been kind of leading this crusade to stop that from happening. Do you think that Goodell has had too many fumbles?
He's done. Look, he's earned an awful lot of money. Commercially, he's been brilliant. But in terms of politics, in terms
Look
of
at all the off-season
the nonsense that's
gone on.
The Tom Brady thing last year, sorry.
Just year on year, you feel like there's a lot of off-season stuff happening in football than any other sport. You know?
The
It started with the Ray Rice thing all the way.
Exactly.
Everything.
So
You take the last, 10 years.
and they're also up for renegotiating the CBA. And I think that if the players are negotiating with Big Rog, they're going to just demand so much that it'll be a walkout in 2021.
I think Roger Goodell or no Roger Goodell, we're seeing a walkout. We're seeing a strike happening that year. I think it's almost a certainty right now.
And, they're saying viewing figures down. They're saying attendances are down. I'm not sure how true that is. But if that is true, a whole year without NFL, we can't imagine that. That would be just horrendous.
Be painful.
That would be horrendous.
It's already a very short season.
Exactly.
All the action is packed in a few months.
Yeah, it's just unacceptable. And the guys have to be mature. It'll be an 11:59 decision that they'll agree, but because everyone's going to lose everything. Who works for the NFL, who's a player, who's associated with it, they will lose so much in that year in terms
so
of
much at
credibility.
stake for the players and for the league as well. I think it's
the
in
owners
their
are
best
billionaires.
interest.
It's not actually going to
No,
hurt
it's not
them
gonna
too
affect them.
much.
Yeah.
So as
It's
long
going to
as
affect guys like us. I don't know how, but it is.
we're going to have to watch tennis on a
Yeah.
Sunday night or something. I don't know.
I think Wings and Rings is going to lose quite a bit because we're there every week. in the
Wings and
IFC.
Rings,
Yeah.
Dubai.
The original Wings.
The
The original Wings and
Yeah.
Rings. So
What a great
we're there every week. If anybody wants to join us, just ask for the Pick 4 Fantasy table. Come have a good time. We're there almost every week watching
The
the game.
manager, Christine, is fantastic. She's
She
part of
really
the league,
is.
and if you just ask for her, she will show you. She'll introduce you to us. It would be cool to meet you. It really would.
All right. Who do I contact for the sponsorship money for giving them a shout out
Christina.
on this? All right.
Christina, yeah. She'll give you a.
You should have it in
she'll
the
give you a
bank already. They're pretty
A
good.
12 dirham voucher.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up this segment with this. When we come back, we're going to go through division by division, look at the current status,
Can't wait.
talk about our
Fantastic.
predictions for the rest of the season, who's going to make the playoffs coming right up.
Not Carolina.
And get your raccoon suit on for the next
Oh, you have to remind me of that every time. All right, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Sports Unhinged podcast.
Welcome back to Sports Unhinged. We've got Mark, the Bear Sherman, and Ujitha, the
We are still
Commissioner
here, apparently.
Sorry, guys.
joining us here in the podcast. All right, let's go through the different divisions, see where they are right now, make our predictions for the rest of the season. We'll start with the AFC East. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
A lot of people predicting before the season that we're going to see him, in the words of Max Kellerman, fall off a cliff. He's still going as good as ever.
His rating's 112.6 today. He's got 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The man's a star. He's just the greatest.
Yeah, they had a tough September.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of, when they had the 2 losses in
Right.
September. And they,
At home.
At home. And people talking about the Pats are done. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, Brady's watch
The
is
season
not done,
opener
baby.
only fueled all of those speculations, right? Because the last time, and I said that in a previous podcast, when I saw that they've lost to Kansas, the last time that happened, they lost to Kansas, they lost to Miami in the first 4 games, and they went on and won the Super Bowl. So I'm like, if this is a sign of anything, it's the exact opposite, is that they will
You
win the
got
Super
Brady
Bowl.
leading the league in pass yards already. You know, he's quietly, moving into MVP position again.
He's got to be in the conversation.
He's
He
always
has
in
to
the
be.
conversation.
And he's got no targets. He's got Brandon Cooks and he's got Amendola.
Chris Hogan's, showed up this season. Amendola. He's hitting his targets, whoever they are.
But
Go-
do you
go
think
on.
the Hightower injury, is that going to affect them?
I think
Defense-wise.
every team has got someone that's going to affect them.
Well, they didn't have a good start on defense.
No, they were given
to begin
400
with.
yards plus for the first 6 games or something. So, no, it's the reality is if you've got a team that's being coached by Bill Belichick, the offense being run by Tom Brady, you're going to win more than you lose, whoever you've got in the other shirts.
Well, I mean, the AFC East is wrapped up. Let's put it that way. We've been
You
saying
think
it
so?
for- I think it's.
I mean, if you look at that division right now, it's closer than it should be. 6-2, the Buffalo Bills and 5-3. Dolphins are 4-4.
yeah.
And the New York Jets, I think, have already overachieved
Oh, yeah.
based on
Yeah,
expectations.
yeah,
I had them going
absolutely.
1-15 at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season.
Well, the only thing I think for the Patriots is their schedule. I think they play like 5 road games in the next 6 weeks.
Right.
That could be the only.
Yeah, but they're
thing
going
that
to
affects
places
them.
like Denver, and but Denver are nothing this year. They can't score points to save their lives. They've got a quarterback that's broken, or quarterback position that's broken.
Right.
If they get, what's his name, Lynch.
With Brock the Heist
Paxton.
Osweiler.
After his performance last weekend, that was just hideous. It was embarrassing, and Philadelphia loved it every minute. And to score 51 against that
Half a hundred,
defense,
baby. Half a hundred. Get it
and
right.
Akib was nowhere to be seen.
Keep got burned.
several times, and it was
This is
definitely
the first time I've seen Aqib Talib play that
It
terrible.
was Alshon Jeffrey's breakout game for Philadelphia.
It was.
He's been reasonably quiet until now, and I was kind of happy about that. But then to see him break out, 3 weeks before they play Chicago, it's quite,
It's not a
quite
happy time
depressing.
for you.
Quite depressing, yeah. No, but we got a fairly decent defense, let's face it. But no, it's just a bit of a mess in Denver.
So what are the expectations? Do we have, obviously, New England winning the division? Do we have anybody making a wild card out of the AFC East?
I actually think the Bills. I think the Bills will make the wild card.
I said that first, though.
Yeah, so credit to you.
All right, thanks. The Bills have to play the Patriots twice, though.
Right.
So but if they split that, and it's possible that they could.
They could.
I don't think Miami or the Jets are going to threaten them in terms.
They've got a great defense. Their safety, Micah Hyde, he leads the interceptions in the league. So
and they've got Kelvin Benjamin.
Oh,
well, they've got.
Don't hurt him like that.
Listen to this. They've got Sean McDermott, who used to be our defensive coordinator last year, who's trying to turn Buffalo into the Carolina Panthers. In the offseason, they got Mike Tolbert.
Why would he do that? Why would he do that?
Well, it's a step up for the Bills, considering where the Bills were. He got Mike Tolbert from Carolina in the offseason, and now he's got Kelvin Benjamin. Yeah. He's building the defense. He's a good defensive coordinator. Now he's proving to be a good head coach.
The Bills have a winning record because of their defense.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Very strong.
So, the Bills could make a run for it.
Yeah.
I really don't think anyone gets the Patriots in this division.
No. Yeah.
They don't.
No. They haven't lost it in, how long? 14, 15 years.
Since you were in school, Mark? No?
Yeah, but even before.
Sorry.
AFC North, we've got Pittsburgh. I mean, at the beginning of the season, there was a lot of trouble there. Big Ben talking about maybe he's lost it. He's talking about retirement.
Yeah.
His heart wasn't in it anymore.
They're 6-2.
Yep. They came back.
And the two games they lost really go against teams that they would have expected to beat, including Chicago. But they're 6-2 now. Their strength of schedule is 25th.
Well,
for the second half of the season.
Who they play? They're going to play the Texans, Colts,
they're going to beat them,
and Packers, because they're all second-string QBs.
Exactly. They're going to. So they're not exactly going to win out, but I expect them to win 12 games.
Well, the key game will be in December when they play the Patriots. So that might
be a preview.
That might be the
AFC.
Conference title.
Absolutely. There you go.
What do you guys think of that hit on Joe Flacco with the Baltimore Ravens when Kiko Alonso? I mean, there was a lot of kind of mixed reactions to that. Some people said it was a legal hit. Some people said that it was.
It's like the hit on Aaron Rodgers. Because it's Aaron Rodgers, people go ape about it, and I've got no time for it. To me, it was reasonably fair. I really don't see too much wrong with it.
Because the way that I saw it, Joe Flacco slid a bit too late.
Yeah.
And Kiko Alonso was already in motion.
He was committed. And once you get out of the pocket, you're pretty much a running back. So that's the way that I saw it. Yeah. I didn't see it illegal. I thought it was hard. Absolutely.
It was hard. He could have not put his shoulder into it.
Yeah, but if you get a chance to hit a quarterback, you're going to do it. I'm sorry, but that's the game.
Yeah.
That is the game.
And Kiko Alonso is not known as a dirty player.
No.
In fact, he's had a pretty kind of spotless record so far. Cincinnati are being Cincinnati again.
Worse.
I think
Andy Dalton, Pro Bowler, Mark's favorite QB of all time.
Was ever got in the Pro Bowl is beyond me.
Their coach has
Turner.
to go. Their coach has to go. The longest time is the second longest serving coach.
Well,
in
at
the
least
NFL.
they don't make the playoffs this season.
Yeah, and be one and done.
Yeah. And I predicted that before the season. I'm like, they're not going to make the playoffs, and they have to let go of their coach. The only reason I think they have their coach right now is because Uncle Marv, they call him.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because he's, I think, one of the lowest paid head coaches in the NFL. He's getting paid what coordinators get paid. So from an owner's perspective, if you get me to the playoffs and I pay you that much, then who cares? By the way, how much of the salary cap have the Bengals used up? Do you have those figures?
Yeah. You have to talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Well, we can talk about the Cleveland Browns and how bad they are again.
Before that, let's go back to the Steelers and talk about Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a better guy production-wise than him? Passing, rushing, he's doing it all.
He didn't start the season very well, and that's because he didn't get a lot of practice. He didn't get a lot of preseason games.
Well, he had some contract issues.
There was a bit of a holdout.
Yeah.
So a lot of people blamed it on that. But once he got going, I've always compared him to...
He's on top 5 of every offensive stat. And then you got Antonio Brown as well. So this Steelers offense is...
Antonio Brown's got to be in the conversation for MVP.
For MVP as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bengals have got 12.7 left. The league average is 13.
13.
So they're on the button.
Philly's got about 6, I think, isn't it?
Philadelphia have got 7.1. So they've done really well with their cap management because they were in trouble
Front
pre-season.
office,
Yeah.
They made some trades. They cut a few
They did.
people.
Matthews.
Yeah, and saved some money.
Yeah.
And have you seen a drop off? I don't think so.
No.
8-1.
Yeah.
Well, even with the injuries,
Exactly.
so the depth chart
Incredible.
is pretty good there.
Your biggest problem is going to be longer term. Replacing Jason
Peters, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And going into the playoffs, the tackle is key position there
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
protect Carson Wentz.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to the AFC South. I mean,
Well, wait a minute. Let's talk about the Browns.
Do we need
Let's
to?
go back to the north?
Well,
go ahead, be my guest.
The Browns have got 60-something million unspent on their cap.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
Because they don't know how to spend it.
No, but they got 36 million dead cap. You got a total of 153. You got 36 dead, and you've still got cap of 62. San Francisco, I'm just going to mention them in the conversation because they've got 60 million unspent. They've also got 36 million dead cap. So the reality is the two teams that are doing the worst in the NFL,
Have owners that are not committing
they're
to
not
winning.
spending the money.
Yeah.
They're not spending the money.
And the fantastic thing is you've got Jacksonville, who've got 34 million. They're number 3 in the table. But they're having a fantastic year. So they haven't spent any money by NFL standards, but they've still got a winning record.
But they're going in the right direction because they invested in their defense.
Yeah.
Oh, huge.
I mean, their defense is, I think,
Yeah, we'll get to
is it
that
number 1 in the league
South.
right now?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Well, rush defense for sure. I mean, that line is incredible.
Like-
Well, let's talk about the AFC South because it was one of those divisions it's got
Yeah, we all expected the Titans
right.
to get that division, but
I had the Texans just by like half a winning it. For some reason, I thought it would come together. Then JJ
well,
Watt
they
went
would
down.
have.
they would have. Their
Yeah.
offense is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's high-powered offense. Sorry, we're speaking over, but they, JJ Watt they lost as well, and they've had some really big injuries, and my heart kind of goes out to them a bit.
Yeah.
Because you want to see the best players play.
well, that's what I said. I mean, it's not only the Texans who lost; it was the NFL.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the AFC South was actually a division that might have been tough to call
Right.
for a while.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But Jacksonville's first game, I mean, no one expected that defense to come out and play the way they did against the Texans, And that game, the Texans, all this emotion with Hurricane, was it Harvey?
Yeah.
And then JJ Watt, 31 million.
I mean, what else could go wrong with the Texans? They had a hurricane, then a flood, then JJ Watt went down, then Whitney Mercilus went down. Then you had a dumb statement by the owner, Bob McNair.
Yeah.
Then you had players walking out, and DeAndre Hopkins almost didn't want to play that week.
Just hold.
Then they all wore the prison suits for the Halloween party. There's been a lot of...
But then again, this is all this off-season and off-field nonsense.
And then you had the biggest phenom in football, coming up, in Deshaun Watson going down with an ACL tear. So they've been through quite a bit.
They're going to not look back on 2017 with happy memories at all, and they just want to get.
But that's the thing. I mean, their offense is so good that if they have the right quarterback in there,
they've got the right quarterback. He's just hurt.
well, yeah,
Next year, absolutely, they're going to be in the running for the South title. This year, the Jags have got it. They're 5-3 at the moment. Their strength schedule going forwards is the easiest in the league.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They're literally 32. The Titans are 28. They're 5-3 also. They've got to play each other, but I just see the Jags getting that. I do think the Titans will get a wild card.
Wow.
So my AFC wild card
Bills and Titans.
are Bills and Titans.
Indianapolis Colts. A story
Yes.
came out, I think it was yesterday or earlier today, that Tony Dungy didn't know that he was speaking into a hot mic and disclosed that Jim Irsay told him that Andrew Luck's injury is not in his shoulder. His shoulder injury is in his head right now, and he might not play again.
It's a dumb thing to say when you've got microphones around, whether they're on or
cold
off.
mic. Forget a hot mic.
Exactly.
I would say it's
just-
a dumb thing to say by Jim Irsay. I wouldn't say that to anyone but my head coach, maybe. No. It's not something that you go around telling people. I know that Tony Dungy's...
They're buddies.
They're
And maybe
friends.
it was over dinner, maybe it was over a beer or whatever, and he said something, And unfortunately, Tony Dungy's really let Jim Irsay down. I don't actually blame Jim Irsay on this. I blame 100% on Tony Dungy. I think the reporters, they're doing their job, but they've really going to stir something up now. And how does Andrew Luck feel about it? That's the question.
I've always said that. And
he's going to want to leave the franchise.
Exactly. And they just signed him to this massive contract last year. And
the Colts never deserved Andrew Luck.
But that's what
absolutely right.
It's something we talked about as well. Is Andrew Luck could be a great player stuck in the wrong team.
Yeah, and that often happens within NFL, and it happens in the NBA as well. But it's sad. Maybe they'll trade him because 20 teams will want him.
Oh, absolutely.
You mentioned earlier that there aren't many great quarterbacks around, and if Andrew Luck can show that he's physically okay, everyone will be knocking at his door.
And here's why I put a bit of blame on Jim Irsay as well, because Andrew Luck, over the years, he never gave him an offensive line to protect him.
No.
He was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL for 2 years. I think it was him and Cam Newton, the most hit quarterbacks. And he never showed any signs of being mentally weak or have. He was the kind of guy, if you ever watch the Sound FX, he'll get hit and he'll be like, "Oh, that hurt. That was a good hit." He would actually congratulate the people.
I'm going to have to watch out for you for this game. He was actually,
so I think it's unfair for Irsay to even think that, especially after all that Andrew Luck has put up with in Indy. Yeah. And like you said, 20 teams, maybe more, would
it's got to be a problem for him.
He's an amazing quarterback.
People would throw 150 million at him if he can prove his physical fitness, because I'm fairly convinced that mental issues not it's a non-subject.
It's not something with Andrew Luck. It's not something you associate with Andrew Luck
at all.
Why would he stall his career for something that's in his head?
Exactly.
AFC West. This one is quite interesting because before the season started, everybody thought that the Oakland Raiders were going to run away with this.
Well, depending on what happened, given what happened there last season.
You got Derek Carr doing really well.
Yeah, but the thing is with the Oakland Raiders, and this is one of the things, I predicted that they would run away with the title. Clearly, I was wrong. But the thing is, they lost a lot of close games last year. It was like about 8 games that they lost by less than a field goal.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, last play games that they won last season.
And they had an 0-2 start. Marshawn Lynch had his beast mode going on for a while, and it looked good.
That's a team that's hitting its stride, in my view.
Yeah.
They've got a relatively easy. They're 19th on the strength of schedule, finishing out. They're 4-5 at the moment. I expect them to win at least 6 or 7 games.
Who do they play? What's their schedule like?
Okay.
While you're looking that up, I'll say Kansas is one of those teams that I never bought into, because we've seen this before with Kansas. There was one season when they were 9-1.
Oh yeah.
They looked like and then they just got knocked out in the playoffs straight away.
And now they've lost 3 of their last 4 games.
Started 5-0, lost 3 of their last 4 games, and you can see a lot of vulnerabilities there
coming up. Kareem Hunt is doing his thing.
Absolutely.
And I think, in terms of all the injuries that have happened, Spencer Ware going down was a good thing for Kansas City. Same thing in Jacksonville with Allen Robinson and that Leonard Fournette came out.
That was a nonsense last weekend.
Yeah, make it to the photo shoot, Leonard.
How ridiculous. The Raiders
apologize for that.
The Raiders have got the Pats, they've got the Chiefs, and they've got the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Okay.
So kind of a tough schedule for them.
So they're
on paper, it's
home to the Pats, home to the Chiefs. Away at Kansas, away in Philadelphia. So they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose probably 4 games. So I'll
Eagles, Cowboys, Pats.
Yeah. So.
And Chargers is one of those up and down teams.
You can never
really know what the hell's going on with them.
Another quarterback that's wasted, I think, is Philip Rivers. If he was in any other team, I think he'll be doing a lot more. He'll be making a lot more.
I would even go back and say that Jay Cutler was wasted in Chicago. They never gave him a line to protect him. The man was beaten up every week for 8 years, and he got so much stick because of he always looked so disinterested. Exactly.
You need to be a leader as a quarterback, and that's one thing. Cam Newton is immature. Jay Cutler looks like he doesn't care all of the time.
Winston, he's completely mature, isn't he?
Winston last weekend, he was he started.
You can't see Mark now, but he's licking his fingers. Make that W, Mark.
He started the game with the most ridiculous kind of ritual.
That is unbelievable. I mean,
but during the game,
it was hard to watch. But to be honest,
after he was hurt and the camera was panning on him on the sidelines,
we were at Wings,
and he was in tears. And the guy seems to now. If you want to talk about mental issues or attitudes, I'm going to put him up there with Cam at the moment.
Absolutely,
I think
top
you
of
look
the
at
list.
the two of them, and there's something going on with their heads at the moment that isn't right.
And that affects the team as well.
Yeah.
It affects the team.
Well, it's going to affect everybody, and the supporters see it. You're a Panther fan, Mohamed.
Right.
So you look at Cam Newton walking out of press conferences, wearing the most ridiculous outfits,
Willy Wonka outfits,
being a bit crazy on the field in Chicago.
Even that
other
comment,
games.
although there was no, there's no kind of malicious intent behind it. That comment about females talking about routes, it's not smart. You know that the media will pounce on that kind of thing.
He's been badly advised. That's all I can say.
I'm done with it.
Or not advised at all. That's what I think.
Maybe he's not listening.
He's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
He's choosing his own wardrobe, that's for sure.
Well, before we jump the gun and get to the NFC,
let's finish the West, though.
Yeah, Denver Broncos.
Oh my God,
train wreck. Absolute train wreck this year. And
Elway not looking like a genius anymore, is
not
he?
at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And the way that Philadelphia dismantled their vaunted defense. Yeah. Anyone playing Denver now is going to think, well, they're not going to score with us against us because they've got Brock or someone, Paxton Lynch or someone under centre. So they're not going to run up many points. But against that fantastic, supposedly, defense,
it's supposed to be the no-fly zone, and it turned into bombs over Baghdad.
Yeah. Exactly.
13 touchdowns, right? They've given away 13 touchdowns in 16, and now they've given up 16 in 8 games.
Yeah.
So there is something rotten in the state of Denver. I hate to quote Hamlet, but...
Well, yeah.
Well, it's what I do.
But Brock Osweiler, he looked terrified up there. He
didn't know where he was throwing. He didn't know. There was that picture of, he I don't know who he threw it to, but it was on triple coverage.
Yeah.
Fine, we didn't get the interception on that, but it's a ridiculous throw.
Well, that's the scary thing. Philadelphia actually could have had 2 or 3 more interceptions on him, and his stats would have been on the floor. But he's just not a good quarterback. And the fact that someone offered him $72 million is a disgrace.
Houston.
Yeah.
Like Mohamed said, this is down to Elway.
Yeah.
The whole post-Manning era hasn't been great from an offensive stand. They did win a Super Bowl on the back of their defense,
right? But
now that defense has regressed and crumbling. So they've nowhere to go now.
And as bad as Peyton Manning was in that last season, with just I think 9 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, I think it's still Peyton Manning. So people it puts some kind of fear in the defenses and their schemes. Now they're not afraid at all. They're just going after the quarterback.
Now they're not even afraid of the Denver defense anymore.
No. So
well, you guys made them look terrible.
Who's their shutout? They had a shutout game as well, didn't they? Denver, who did they lose to?
It was against the Chargers.
Was it against
the Chargers? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shutout game.
Yeah.
Well, the NFC East.
Wow.
Are we done with the AFC?
Yeah, we're done with the AFC. We've gone through all 4 divisions. Anything else to add before we move on to the NFC?
No.
All right, let's go into the NFC East. Ujitha, bask in your glory with your Philadelphia Eagles.
Where do you even start? As a Philly fan, you waited all these years. All right, almost since '85 Bears.
Can I make sure that I have you back here after the NFC Championship game? Because I have a feeling that's when you'll get your heart broken.
Come on now.
Big statement.
The guy who lost Kelvin Benjamin.
I don't know by who.
The guy with the raccoon suit.
Yeah, Mr. 1-8 over here.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
He's saying, Mr. 1. But the thing is, Mr. 1-8 has said that you're going to lose it, so you can pretty much put your money on and say he's going to win. So they're going to win. So
yeah. If my record goes by anything, right?
But you look at the remaining fixtures that the Eagles have got. They've got.
It's not too bad.
They're in Dallas. They're home to Chicago, in Seattle, in Los Angeles against the Rams, against the Giants, against the Raiders, and the Cowboys.
So if there are any more games to lose, it's the Cowboys and the Rams, and that's about it. So
possibly the Raiders.
12-4 season is what we said.
I'd agree with that.
The season's biggest disappointment has to be the New York Giants, though.
I'm going to put my hands up and say I had them down for divisional winners.
Me too. 11-5 is what I predicted.
Yeah.
Mark and Mohamed had the Giants winning the NFC East.
Yeah. So ignore everything that we predicted. Sorry, guys.
But listen, let me get back to the Eagles for just for a second.
I'll let you go ahead.
Leave aside the talent and all the stuff that's happened for the Eagles for this season, and it's all been about resolve, man. That's been the difference about this Eagles team. They found ways to win. They had a tough schedule starting out. I think 4 road games out of their first 6.
They got 3-1 out.
3-1 out of that.
Yeah.
They went to the West Coast and came back on a short week to win. They won on a long week. They won, so they found ways. A 61-yard field goal from Elliott. They found ways to win. Even that Chiefs game, on the onside kick, if Ertz had held on to that ball, we won that game as well.
Right.
So that's the key about the Eagles this season. It's the resolve. And Doug's been saying this in the locker room as well. And that's something that's been missing for a long time.
And they do seem like a genuine team. You were commenting about some of the videos coming out.
Their quarterback is just composed, mature beyond his years. He's acting like a quarterback.
And that's helped the offensive line. It's helped the defense.
Absolutely.
I mean, when did you last year in Eagles, probably the Buddy Ryan days, that's when you heard of a good Eagles defense, right? But now you've got the best rush defense in the league, almost the best.
And to think that you've put all of that together so
Space of
soon
2
after
years,
the Chip Kelly era, which pretty much dismantled.
Well, Chip Kelly was a 1-year wonder.
Yeah.
He tried to bring the whole college scheme into the Eagles. It worked for a while. It was fun to watch.
Right.
Especially for the neutrals, it was fun to watch. But yeah, it got frustrating after a while. And I think the Eagles did well, with all the bringing in Jim Schwartz. That is one of the biggest things that have happened in the Eagles, and that defense has just turned around. The secondary was completely abysmal for a while, and now they did some good draft picks. Roland Darby they got in, but he's injured though. But they've done quite well.
No, but he's one for the future.
He is.
But the whole thing about Wentz is the fact that they gave him 600 throws last year.
It goes back to that point, absolutely.
And they allowed him to develop. They allowed him to make mistakes. And this is what's not happening with Trubisky. And, I'm not going to go back on that. But it's just so irritating to see that. And all you want is for your rookies to be able to develop.
And that tough year for Wentz, if you see him now, he's so confident in collapsing pocket. He's scrambling around, and he's getting great protection as well. But he's working that pocket.
He knows when to throw it away now.
See, that's the thing. If you can no longer do the Aaron Rodgers thing where you sit them for 3 years and develop them and then have them start. If you're not going to do that, then start them from the beginning. Like you said, let them make their mistakes, let them develop, and find out what they're made of. I mean, you can clearly tell if they've got the heart, if they've got, they're putting in the time and the effort.
Yeah. If you give them 16 games and 600 throws, you're going to know at the end of December if you've got your franchise quarterback or not.
And then you can decide what you want to do from there.
Exactly.
The other thing about the Eagles as well, and they've amended how players, where they fit in. Nelson Aguilar moved to the slot. He wasn't great last season.
Right.
He's fantastic this season. The way LeGarrette Blount, he didn't have a couple of good games to start with, but now he's moving in. So they looked at what's gone wrong and adjusted, and that's another aspect of the Eagles.
I think the coaching has been outstanding.
That's what it is.
The front office got them the players, and they've done a fantastic job. But the coaching has been outstanding.
Now that's key. You can have the talent, but
if you don't have the coaching, I mean, look at the New York Giants.
They've got the players.
They asked Ben McAdoo what he told his players at halftime, and he drew a blank. He just stared at the mic for quite a few, like 7 seconds or something.
Because it was all expletives.
it's
but McAdoo's got a problem. I think Eli's got a problem as well now there.
And this is the thing: when you have quarterbacks that have won multiple championships, they're usually branded as elite. But in everything, you always have some outliers. And I think Eli Manning is one of those. Because
the fact that he's won more Super Bowls than his brother, staggering.
He ended up, Peyton ended up winning the second one, so they're drawn. But
it's just amazing.
But this season is all on Eli and McAdoo. Play calling wise, Eli can't hit his targets. when in the preseason it was all about their defense, and their defense hasn't done much either.
Okay, here's a question for you, Mohamed, as opposed to the other way around. If he wasn't Eli Manning, would he still be playing for the Giants? Would he be under centre?
I don't think so. If you're that bad for that long, they'll get rid of you. We've seen how impatient teams are with quarterbacks.
Exactly. I mean, fine, they lost OBJ and Brandon Marshall. I mean,
that happens.
Stuff happens.
It does. But have they traded for anyone? They've got cap space. They've not traded.
There's no movement in the front office at all.
It almost seems like they're happy with this one-win season so far.
But this is the thing. What do they want? Are they looking to get a future quarterback? Are they looking at the draft?
I think they are. Honestly speaking, I mean, who's their backup?
I don't even know who it is.
He's a rookie as well. So they could be in it to get some draft picks. QBs.
I'm going to take a statement back that I just made about cap space. They've actually only got 2 million cap space.
Oh, they've only got 2. Yeah, because
you can delete that. I mean, embarrassed.
No. I'll take that on the chins.
I'm keeping that in.
Yeah,
people just forget everything that's been said.
I would if I were you. I'd keep it in. So no, they've only got 2 million, but even so, they didn't try and trade anything.
Yeah,
that we know of.
And Odell was just too immature. He at the beginning of the season talking about how he wants to be the most paid player in the NFL. I'm sorry, but a wide receiver, no matter how great you are, you can be the next Jerry Rice. You're never more important than a quarterback, because the quarterback is the guy that makes all the decisions. So
most important position in all of sport.
In all of sport, absolutely. That's
you
why
just
they're
have to
protected.
take a look at the Patriots just to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Dallas Cowboys, the whole Ezekiel Elliott situation. It's getting out of hand. Suspended, unsuspended, suspended, unsuspended.
It's going to make a difference for Dallas. If he gets suspended in the coming weeks or whatever, it's going to make a difference for their schedule going on.
It might even go into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
And I think they've run out of appeals now, haven't they?
It's gone to the highest court in the land now. It's just become a nonsense. But they're at the Falcons on Sunday. Then they're home to the Eagles. Then they're home to the Chargers. Home to the Redskins. Yeah. Home games, you've got to say they're going to win.
Right.
Really. You'd expect
because
them
of Dak Prescott. I think he's proved that he's the real thing.
Yeah, and then they're going to the Giants, so they're going to win that. Then they're going to the Raiders, half and half. Then they're home to Seattle. Then away at Philadelphia. So.
But it's their connection, Dak and Elliott, that's worked for Dallas.
Right.
And I think Des Bryant is injured as well. So they've got a problem in that offense going forward. But then again, Dak Prescott has been really good when he's faced with a challenge.
Right.
With good teams, the moment, the situation, he's come out really well.
But it's funny how their O-line went from being the best O-line in football to not looking so good anymore. What do you think changed there? I mean,
I think they were found out. I think they got a year older as well, and people could scheme against them.
Yeah, and Denver defense.
This is what good coaches do. They see what Dallas have done the previous year and say, well, if we do this kind of slant, they've got no defense against that, and this is what. That's what coaches are paid for.
So everybody got Eagles winning the division? Is that
I don't think anyone can catch them. I think I'll just put my hands up and say that was the worst prediction I made preseason. I had them going in last. The Giants going in top.
I said exactly the same, so hands up.
Yeah.
To be fair to you guys, I mean, you didn't know what exactly was happening in the Eagles.
All right. You didn't know either.
Mr. Insider
I stayed quiet,
Let's move on to the NFC North. So we've got
the best division in football.
Minnesota Vikings 6-2, Lions and the Packers 4-4, and the Bears 3-5. Now I've alluded to this before in previous podcasts, but it is Mark he's the person I have the bet with on who finishes with a better record, Carolina.
How many raccoon suits are you going to wear, Mohamed?
Well, fortunately, the bet is only a play at wing, so we're both kind of happy. But I'd like to say that we did have a little side bet a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, we did.
On the Chicago-Carolina game, which, of course, I won. So
your domestic issues to yourself.
I'm on the worst that's going to happen is that I'm going to get nothing. The worst that's going to happen to you is
cancel each other out.
To be fair, Bears at 3-5 at this point of the season, you're happy with that. You're more than happy.
I'm happy on the face of it because they've won 3 games and they only won 3 games all last year. But I'm really frustrated that what they said in pre-season was that there was going to be an open competition in practice at camp. didn't happen.
Right.
And they started Mike Glennon. And Tampa, the whole team was awful. So I'm going to, and also in Green Bay. But they lost at home to Atlanta in the first game of the season, and they could have won that.
Very close.
Very
game.
close. Yeah.
You know,
23-17.
and so
yeah.
the whole thing is kind of frustrating. You sitting there at 3-5 and thinking, well, maybe we could actually be 5-3.
Yeah.
And it's not often you get a chance to win if you're in Chicago Bears uniform these days. And we've had that chance. The defense is playing lights
Top
out.
10 defense.
Yeah,
Akeem
absolutely.
Hicks and what's the other guy? Goldman.
Eddie Goldman and Hicks in the centre. You've just got two 300-pound plus guys, top of their game.
Getting it done.
Yeah.
Getting it done.
And they're going to get to any quarterback, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So
It was a shame seeing Aaron Rodgers go down. I mean, it's good news for the rest of the division.
Yeah, I mean, you're
shaking your head there, but it just
You know you love Aaron.
as
Come
a
on.
fan of football,
Yeah, you don't want to
when you see
that.
arguably the best quarterback go down like that, and the scary
And
part
the thing is, Aaron can turn games, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he, on his own.
well, I think we're seeing how much Green Bay rely on him, because ever since he's
sure.
gone down, they've been appalling as a team on defense and offense.
Some people are talking whether he should opt out at the end of the year and move from Green Bay. Colin Cowherd, who's absolutely mental.
Yeah.
He was talking about that. He kind of compared it to being in a relationship where you're doing 75% of the work. That might be true, but Green Bay is a historic place.
Exactly.
I mean, you
He's
don't...
going
Was-
nowhere.
How many QBs have they had in 25 years? Two.
There you go. Brett
So-
Favre
Says it
and
all.
Aaron Rodgers.
He's
you know?
going nowhere,
Yeah.
sadly for Chicago.
But the thing is, the collarbone is similar to that Tony
Maybe
Romo
it's not the
injury.
collarbone. Maybe it's all in the head.
I mean, it's one of those. It's like the Tony Romo injury. It never comes back quite the same. It's in his throw-in shoulder. It might affect him going forward.
Romo got a
Will we
huge
ever see
welcome,
the
didn't he?
same Aaron Rodgers back on the field?
It's possibly not. Possibly not. And that'd be sad from a football point of view. From a Chicago point of view, it wouldn't be sad, I'm afraid. But from a football point of view, absolutely, you want to see him back because he's such a great player. I don't think he will be the same.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible that he's the same.
Right.
But he's got a good enough brain that he can compensate. Now, maybe he won't do the Hail Marys that one in Minnesota or all this kind of stuff. But he's still going to be a winning quarterback. If he suits up, he knows he's going to be good enough to win games.
A one-armed Aaron Rodgers is still better than most of the quarterbacks in the league.
Chicago hit him a few years ago. Shea McClellan hit him in Lambeau and took him down, and he broke his left collarbone.
Yeah.
That took a while to heal, but he obviously it doesn't affect
Came
his
back,
game.
didn't miss a beat.
No.
How are the Minnesota Vikings at 6-2 with
very-
all of
very
their
strong.
quarterback trouble?
Well, they've activated.
They are strong, but they have some defense problems. Right? They haven't got any takeaways. They won only 7 teams that don't have takeaways.
Only 17 touchdowns, and they managed. I mean, Chicago has 16 touchdowns, Detroit 22, Green Bay 23. So they're pretty much down there in terms of number of touchdowns.
Offensively, not great in the red zone conversions.
Yeah.
That's got to be frustrating because you get the ball up to the 20 and then you can't make the touchdown, and it's got to be.
I think the big news for them is the fact that Sam Bradford's now on IR and they've activated Teddy Bridgewater. And if Bridgewater can come back and just manage games, they're going to win.
Because before he got injured, he was lighting up the league.
He was doing so well.
He looked really, really good. So if he just can come back to anything close to that, I think they'll be okay.
They just cannot rush him. That would be a massive, massive mistake because they could cost him his career. I mean, no one wants to see that.
Right.
I think they're well placed to make the playoffs.
I think they're going to win the division. They're going to win the
take
division. Yeah. But I don't see a wild card coming out of the North.
Detroit with their highest paid quarterback in the league.
Well, Derek Carr's matched that, hasn't he, now? It's 25 million, yeah, I think.
I think there's pennies in it. Yeah. I think they're both getting paid huge sums of money.
Yeah.
But no, I don't see...
No, 3 and 4, it's not going to...
I think Matthew Stafford had a great game in Green Bay when they won on Monday night. I'm afraid a lot of his stats do come in garbage yards as well.
Right.
And so he's a very, very good quarterback. He's probably near the top of Division 2 in terms of quarterback. I don't think he's elite in Division 1.
And he loves comebacks. Detroit loves comebacks.
They do.
It's not going to work out, though.
Just before we leave Green Bay, they're playing in Chicago this weekend. I think it's a massive game for both teams. Whoever loses that is done.
When you're
Absolutely
I'm
done.
sure your favorites for that game
For the first time. First time in 9 years.
when your records are that close and it's a division game, it almost counts as 2 games.
Yeah.
When whether you win or lose it.
And, if Chicago lost that game, that would be just the lowest point for the last couple of years, because the promise of
your defense should be able to get to Hudley.
I think they will, but it's a matter of, can the offense put enough points on?
Not with 4 passes.
Well, 7.
I'm sorry.
7 against
I'm sorry,
Carolina.
7.
They
But
won
you
that
scratch
game.
that.
Yeah,
they did. But that's the
passes
point, right?
But
they don't need any quarterback there.
They were on a bye last week. The game before was in New Orleans, and Zach Miller, get well soon, please.
Terrible.
And but he threw 32 passes that game. So is it a case of maybe they are letting him swing a little bit more now and have a bit more freedom and start throwing it, or is it a case of they were chasing the game and trying to make up?
Yeah.
I hope it was the former, and that the Loggins, the OC, is actually starting to think we need to start utilising Trubisky's arm, because his accuracy is very good.
Yes, he showed a lot of promise as well. Yeah.
And I just want to see him throw the ball, and he's not going to hit every target. He's going to get intercepted. The guy's a rookie. Let him be a rookie. Let him make mistakes. Let him grow.
But you got nothing to
play him
lose
out.
this season.
Exactly.
The NFC South. Now,
Yeah.
let me just take a minute here and talk about Cam Newton, because we're 6-3.
Yeah.
Take all the time you need, actually. Yeah, take more than a minute.
We're going to shut up.
Yeah, we're going to take a small break, and we'll be right back.
This is the thing. The other day, now, I have a son that's almost 2 years old, and he's starting this thing now, the phase where he's throwing tantrums just to see whether he can get away with certain things, right? And the other day, I don't know, he wanted to go play. We were having dinner, and we're like, oh, you got to wait. We can't go play now. He just threw a tantrum. And my wife turned to me without skipping a beat, and she's like, oh, we've got a mini Cam Newton up here. And that's the way that I see Cam Newton. He's an adult acting like a baby.
He's a petulant kid at the moment.
You are not a rookie anymore. You're not on a second year.
You're elite.
You've been in a league already. You've won an MVP. You've reached the Super Bowl. And you are showing every single year, you're getting less and less mature. You're showing less signs of being a leader. You're not bringing people together. Even the celebrations, when you're celebrating the touchdowns,
He's
you're
on
not
his own.
celebrating with the team.
He's on his own.
Yeah.
Whether he's thrown the touchdown or whether he ran it into the end zone, he's telling his teammates to back up. He's finding the nearest camera, and he's doing the Superman pose. He needs to stop doing that. He needs to stop celebrating first down. It needs to be...
He needs to come back to ground.
Press conferences. We've talked about it.
Well, look at the plays, and I mean, you might know better than this, but sometimes it feels like he's calling a lot of audibles. It doesn't seem to be the play that's called, and he's scrambling around.
He's not reading the defenses
He's not
properly.
reading the defense. On short yardage, he's a dangerous QB, but he tries to do this all the time. He tries to scramble around. He tries,
And
read
if
option a lot.
If it wasn't for McCaffrey, he would be looking a lot worse right now than
I think he's saving him. I think he's saving him. He's got to be about the team as opposed to about himself. And if he doesn't, he's going to lose all respect in Carolina from his teammates, his coaches, and the fans.
And by the way, I've been one of those people that have defended Cam.
Yeah, you have.
Up until now. I've always defended him. I'm like, all right, he's running a lot with the ball, but at the same time, he's trying to develop as a pocket passer. It's all come clear to me now that he keeps the ball for too long, doesn't make a decision fast enough. He takes sacks when he should just throw it away. It's very frustrating as a Carolina fan. And we're 6-3, by the way. I mean, we're not even struggling. We could actually still win this division.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the playoffs. Now that you've reached the Super Bowl, that you've won the MVP, the expectations are much higher. And as a Carolina fan, I think reaching that Super Bowl is probably one of the worst things, because we were giving him a pass up until then. And now that you've reached the Super Bowl, we're not saying that you have to be there every year, but you have to show more leadership. You have to show more.
His running around and all his dropbacks that he does affects the O-line as well.
Yeah.
Because now they suddenly don't know how to protect him from, his dropbacks and his scrambling around. It's a difficult prospect for them.
And you're not having your wide receivers develop properly, because they have to turn around halfway through their routes and see whether you're scrambling and then come back and try and help and block you. So it's just not working out. People are losing their patience in
You and I
Carolina.
watched the Chicago game.
Yes.
And you were very critical of Cam Newton throughout the game. He did a 2 or 3 scrambles, got 10 yards, got first downs, whatever. But his overall performance in that was abysmal.
The number of interceptions. I mean, we lost by 14 points to a team that only had 4 passes.
7
Seven
attempts.
Why do we keep making this mistake again?
Just think about that. I mean, that tells you everything that you need to know.
And you were on the field for, I think, close to 40 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we're leading. We're one of the top 5 in the league in terms of time of possession.
Yeah.
Maybe the top. I didn't check since last week, but we were number 1 at some point.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. It's just very.
But the record's still good.
It's 6 and 3.
It's still 6 and 3.
The issue you've got going forward is that you've got the toughest schedule on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that means you've got games that you could lose. Well,
Is it the wild
mark
check
looks it
section
up.
again?
No, I'm ready for this. So the next one, they're home to the Dolphins. So you'd expect them to win that.
Yeah.
Then they're at the New York Jets.
Yeah. Saints going to be
We
tough.
should win that.
Then they're in New Orleans. I'm afraid I've got New Orleans down for.
Yeah, I mean, they've been the surprise of the season so far.
They're home to the Vikings. I see the Vikings
0-2 start.
winning in Carolina.
They're 6-2.
Yeah.
And here's a fun stat, I'll tell you. The last time 2 franchises did that, 93 Cowboys and the 07 Giants. And guess what happened to them?
They both won
They
Super
won the
Bowls.
Super Bowls that year.
I would have put it past Drew Brees.
Drew Brees is lights out. Absolutely.
And they've got a 66-point differential in
Yeah.
the points. I mean,
No, but the thing about them this year, we kind of expect them to run up points.
they always do run up points.
But this year,
Defense.
their defense has really stepped up.
Yeah.
So
They've clearly
credit to
recovered
New
from the
Orleans.
Rob Ryan era.
Yeah, I think New York's still trying to.
And who they've got obviously 4 division games, the Redskins, the Rams, and the Jets. So it's not a crazy schedule, and half of them are at home.
Right.
So at the Superdome, you got to bet on Breeze.
So for the Panthers, who do they have after the Jets? New Orleans?
In New Orleans, and then they're home to Minnesota, home to Green Bay. They're going to win that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to win the last 2, Bucks and Falcons.
And Bucks and Falcons as well. So, I've got them down very close to New Orleans at the end, but I think New Orleans will get the division.
What did you say their record was going to be?
So the Panthers, I had them at 11-5.
11-5.
I think they might be 10-6.
I think 10 and 6
Yeah,
is.
10-6.
I can see them losing in
Saints, Vikings, possibly Jets.
No, I don't think the Jets.
I
we
think
will
that
beat
you're
the
going to
Jets.
lose a game that you can expect to win, a
Yeah,
bit like
yeah.
you did in
Could be
Chicago.
Buccaneers.
Exactly.
That would be horrible.
Exactly. Something silly will happen because that's the NFL, which is
Yeah.
great. It's why we love it.
Well, the Falcons the number of pundits that picked the Falcons to make a comeback to the Super Bowl before the season was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And very few people put a lot of weight on the fact that they might get a Super Bowl hangover.
It's a cliche, but it's true. I mean, they have been really affected by the Super Bowl
It's
loss.
the worst way you could lose a Super Bowl.
Chicago should have beaten them in week 1.
Yeah.
Fact. If we'd had anyone but Mike Lennon under center, Chicago would have won.
And that Julio Jones dropping that catch, that's emblematic of how this Falcons season has
They would have beat us if he caught that pass.
You don't expect Jones
Completely open in the end zone.
Completely open, that's the other thing. First of all, who kept him open?
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
He just outran both the safeties.
That wasn't a difficult catch either.
You were out-schemed on that play.
Right.
That was a 4-down pass as well.
Yeah. So, no, it's...
But that stigma is there, the Super Bowl loss.
And we've already kind of talked about Tampa Bay and how ridiculous Jameis Winston is.
Yeah. They've had one good game this year, and that was when they played
Dirk
Chicago.
Cutter will walk the plank.
I don't know. You've got your franchise quarterback, and it's a bit like the situation in Carolina. Are they going to stick with it?
Yeah.
And all the nonsense and all the baggage that goes with their emotional outbursts and petulance and everything else, because they're still decent quarterbacks. I'm not sure Winston's that great a quarterback anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
He's
I think
certainly
it's
not.
more talk, more personality than...
He's going down the Cam Newton route.
Yeah.
That's what's worrying.
And I think the Hard Knocks series kind of revealed a lot before the season. We got to see a lot of...
franchises has that affected?
Yeah.
The Rams, Falcons, Dolphins, All of them.
He was playing to the cameras the whole time. Even the motivational speeches before the games, they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you want to see a real motivational speech before a game, look at Drew Brees. That guy pumps his players up, and you really can.
I wonder if he'll want the hassle of being a coach, Drew Brees, because from what we know of the guy, and we only see a small portion of what he does. He comes across as a people person and definitely a motivator. But will he want some of the nonsense that goes with being a head coach in the NFL in 2020? So the guy's just a fantastic example to everyone as to how you should behave as a star. And Cam Newton and Winston both need to look at Drew Brees and say...
And just follow that blueprint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, everybody had the Bucs going somewhere in this division.
I didn't. I said that everybody was a year too early on the Bucs. But looking at... just the immaturity, the culture there. You saw the hit over the weekend with Mike Evans. It started with Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
it did. Everybody
poking,
saw that.
I can't remember the name of the Saints player.
I don't know.
Lattimore.
Yeah.
And he poked him in the back of the helmet. And the funny thing is that he got suspended, Mike Evans. The other ridiculous decision, which I think goes back to the NFL and how they're dropping the ball. AJ Green had WWE match.
He was on the floor.
With Jalen Ramsey of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Floor.
Did not get suspended. It's absolutely ridiculous.
But I think that's symptomatic of the Roger Goodell era, where you've got this nonsense going on, and that's why I just don't think he'll be commissioner much longer. He's getting paid $26 million a year or something ridiculous.
Yeah, one year he made $40 million.
Yeah,
I think.
it's just a nonsense.
We didn't
figures.
see a penny of that, did we?
Not a penny. And for all the work that we've done,
I'm just saying,
promoting the NFL,
exactly.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But
hey, Rog.
Yeah.
But,
my email address is
showmethemoney@gmail.com.
Well, I had a fantasy football game. One of the reasons why I'm 1-8.
You play fantasy football, man.
Was up against a guy who had Ezekiel Elliott, and when the suspension came through, I'm like, great, I might have a chance of winning.
Yeah.
And then Roger Goodell let me down again.
You've got Jonathan Stewart.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
But the Bucs, they have a pretty good offense. Sean Jackson, Doug Martin, all these guys.
Deshaun Jackson was supposed to be the deep threat that opens up a lot more plays for Mike Evans in the short yardage space. But it didn't.
Deshaun Jackson
is because of Winston. He's not making. I think I saw a statistic that there's quite a few plays where Deshaun Jackson has been completely open and Jameis completely missed him.
Maybe it's a personal thing. If it's a personal thing, then Jackson will walk. He won't stay around there for long.
No. And then this Saints game was Winston's low point. This is the low, I think, lowest point for him.
I'm going to be really interested to see how he does this weekend.
Yeah.
You had to bring Ryan Fitzpatrick to make your scoreline look better.
Right.
Scary.
Oh, my God.
Really. A beardless Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, that's even more scary.
he looks better with a beard.
They're playing the Jets next week, aren't they? Are they? So he's going back home. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, they're home to the Jets.
Home to the Jets. Going back home.
So...
Finally, the NFC West. And I think one of the biggest surprises of the season has been the LA Rams and how good they've looked.
From what they were last season, it's incredible. And Jared Goff, he was all right in the last season, but this is his breakout season.
His breakout season for sure.
And Todd Gurley's back. I mean, that's good to see as well.
I think you have to give the head coach
all
the credit in the world.
I think I had him down for Coach of the Year as well.
Yeah. He's got to be in the running.
I mean, he's brought this whole offense together.
Now, I think they probably won't be strong enough to make an impact in the playoffs because they've just never been there before, and the pressure might get to them. But I think going forward, they're definitely moving in the right direction right now.
I don't know. I think Sean McVay's got nothing to lose. They're going to be chilled. He's going to say, go out there and have fun.
Yeah.
And if we lose,
averaging
we'll
33 points per game.
Net points 108.
Yeah,
plus 108. It's incredible.
I just think
and they've
that
scored 224 all of last season.
Yeah,
I said it's chalk and cheese. It's if ever there's been a turnaround in one season, an overnight turnaround, this is it. Absolutely.
New city, new stadium.
The whole last season, 1 and something. Or was there?
Yeah, but Jeff Fisher was just one of the worst coaches in the NFL at the time.
And we talked about getting rid of Fisher for what? How many seasons?
10.
I think every time we met up, we talked about it, right?
This is Jeff's last week.
Last year they were 4-12.
Yeah, 4-12.
And they only beat the 49ers in the division, in terms of record. They were 2-14. So
I mean, Jared was 0-7 in his rookie season.
Yeah.
But they lost their last 7 games last year. So they would have been really deflated going into the off-season. We've done nothing for the last half a season. So all credit to Sean McVay. Yeah, brilliant.
Seattle. You really don't know with Seattle.
Yeah,
they could just turn it around and become the Seattle of old and make it all the way to the Super Bowl, or they could collapse. You really don't know.
Well, they've lost Earl Thomas, and that is a big deal in the secondary. That is going to affect them. Their offensive line isn't great as well. A lot of pressure on Wilson.
And that's going to be the key thing. I think Russell Wilson's been scrambling more than
exactly, and he creates his own pressure, just like Cam Newton. A lot of dropbacks. It's difficult for the O-line to protect him.
I've got the Rams down to win the division, but I've got the Seahawks to be the wild card.
The wild card, yeah.
Yeah, because
5-3, so they're
going to win 10 or 11 games, and because in all the other divisions, they're going to kind of beat themselves to a great extent. You're going to have a lot of teams at 6-10 and 7-9 and 8-8, and I just think the Seahawks will creep into the playoffs, and once they're there, I don't think they're going to win anything, but they could win a game that we won't expect them to.
Now, before the season,
that's the whole postseason.
That's what it should be.
Before the season, a lot of people were very high on the Arizona Cardinals, and this was one of the predictions that I remember very vividly. I had them going at 8-8, and I said that this is the only prediction that I don't have a reason for. I just thought it was just a gut feeling that something will go wrong. Carson Palmer will be a bit... Father Time will come knocking,
I think the whole, losing David Johnson really affected them.
By the way, that's why I'm 1-8. I had David Johnson as my running back.
Why you keep bringing up your 1-8 fans?
That's when it started.
Yeah, right. The raccoon brings it up
territory.
Again. Yeah, I'd keep it under wraps if I were you.
That's where it started, I'm just saying.
This is not something to boast about. So,
in case you didn't know.
Heads up over there.
So they're 4-4. They're on track for that 8-8. San Francisco 0-9, but people are finding a lot of good things to say about them. Well, yes, it's a reclamation project. It's going to take a while.
They're going to win their first game this weekend.
You think so?
Yeah, they're at home to the Giants.
Oh,
and I think
that's a good game actually.
I think
that should be on our game. That should be on our pick list.
It is.
Is it? Well, very.
So
who'd you go? Let's make a pick right now.
San Francisco. I've already put them in.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think the Giants are spiraling down.
Yeah, they're just mentally not together there.
What did they give up last weekend in terms of points
50 what?
51.
51.
I think it's the same as
Denver game,
Yeah.
So
half 100, 2 games, yeah.
Can San Francisco win any other games? Or they end up the season with
they're playing in Chicago. So, so I'm going to say no.
Let's see how that goes.
Look, they might win a couple of games.
But who gets the number 1 draft pick? That's the question now.
Cleveland. I don't see Cleveland winning a game.
But a lot of the quarterbacks that are being talked about going as number 1 in the draft pick don't want to go to Cleveland. You have the Sam Darnolds.
Yeah, I don't
JT
think
Barrett.
A badly managed franchise.
A quarterback will not go number 1.
Yeah, you don't think so?
No, they're not good enough. It's going to be a bit like Myles Garrett. You're going to have a few standout players, and I don't know college ball enough, but listening to other people, reading some other stuff, I don't think a quarterback will go in I'll make a prediction that it won't be a quarterback in the top 3.
Oh, that'd be interesting, because I think San Francisco...
We can have a plate of wings on that.
Well, we can have a plate of wings on that. Because I think San Francisco's probably... Well, they've got Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, I think, they won't go for a quarterback anymore. They were the ones that I thought would go for a quarterback. So, yeah. All right, well, that wraps up the predictions, the mid-season reviews. Let's just wrap up the show with our predictions for the awards. Who's the MVP? I know who you're going for, Ujitha.
Well, you'd be surprised, actually. I'll tell you that.
Really?
I'll tell you that, yeah. I mean, obviously you want to look at Carson Wentz, the numbers, but what is an MVP? I mean, you got to talk about value. And for me, that's always going to be Tom Brady.
He has to be in the conversation every time.
He has to be because, I mean, look what he's done. You know, he's 40 years old. Season didn't start out great, but he's come and done his bit, you know, and he's going to take the Patriots to the postseason again. So I want it to be Carson Wentz, but I think it will be Tom Brady.
On stats, in terms of quarterback ratings, Wentz is 104.1.
Yeah, he's number one.
No?
Alex Smith, was it?
Alex Smith is number one at 113.9.
Wow. Okay.
And Tom Brady is 112.6. So what Ujitha is saying is absolutely right, that, you know, it's very hard to look beyond Tom Brady. And if they win the division and if they get to the Super Bowl, he's MVP. Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Alex Smith had his first interception in the fourth quarter of week 9.
He's having the best season so
yards
far.
almost. Yeah. Exactly.
18 touchdowns so
18
far.
touchdowns. So, you know, I mean, as an Eagle fan, obviously you want to say Carson Wentz, but bigger picture, it's got to be.
It's got to be the great Tom Brady.
Unfortunately, yeah.
You're
welcome, Andy.
Our biggest Patriot fan, Big Four Fantasy. How about Defensive Player of the Year?
Campbell.
Calais Campbell, without a doubt.
I think he's a runaway Defensive Player of the Year.
11 sacks.
Without a doubt.
He's just so far ahead. Yeah. You know, I'd love to say Akeem Hicks. I think if you look at an individual who's having an effect on his teammates, I think Akeem
making
Hicks
others better. Yeah.
He's bringing everyone up to his level, and that's why the Bears are doing so well on defense.
I mean, there are
so
few names. Even Marshawn Lattimore, the guy got blindsided by Evans as well. Rookie shutdown corner. And he's worked the pass defense really well for the Saints. And not the greatest defensive unit, but lowest passer rating when targeted.
Yeah.
And maybe not at the Defensive Player of the Year level because there's other players, but Luke Kuechly. I mean, you can tell Carolina's in the top 4 defenses in the league right now.
I agree.
And you can see the difference when Luke is playing and when he's not playing.
The presence makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Rookie of the Year. Now that Deshaun Watson is gone, who's your Rookie of the Year?
Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette.
Eddie Jackson,
guys.
Eddie Jackson, safety in Chicago, because he got 2 touchdowns against Carolina.
Well, you did when you had 7 passing yards.
Something like that.
What was it for? I get mixed up.
I'm not going to go down that road again.
Yeah, I think Kareem Hunt is definitely.
Yeah, I think he's a standout.
But even Leonard Fournette, I mean, he's all-purpose yards guy.
Yeah, but he's not going to play 16 games now. And silly stuff like that.
Right.
Get to the photo shoot. That's all I'm saying.
Get to the photo shoot.
If he messes up off the field again this year,
that's it. He's out of contention.
There's a question mark against his character and all this kind of stuff. And
where would you fit McCaffrey?
Well, McCaffrey, I think, has to be in the discussion, but the Panthers are depending on him so much.
The workload,
the workload. He's helping the Panthers get a lot of first downs, not so many touchdowns. So he's not really talked about at the same level as Kareem Hunt and all the others. But he definitely has to be in the discussion. Now, as a Panthers fan, I want to say that he should be considered, but I don't want to encourage that kind of behavior where we're depending on a rookie.
Go down the Cam
and I want to hold Cam accountable for what's happening in Carolina right now.
I think my biggest fear about your guy is that he's going to get run into the ground.
Yeah.
And the last 4 games, he's going to be gassed.
He's going to be gassed. Cam Newton can no longer scramble.
And it's going to happen with Funches as well.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Benjamin out.
And Cam Newton can no longer keep scrambling like that because he's got a bad shoulder and he could go down as well. And that's the end of the season.
Cam, the way he played, again, I've only really seen him in Chicago in the game that we saw last weekend against...
Falcons. We played the Falcons last week,
I just feel he's going to get hurt.
He looks very close.
I really get nervous watching him now.
It's like RG3 all over.
And every time there's a throw that's more than 10 yards, I just hold my breath. I don't know where that's going. Into double coverage, into triple coverage. Is it an interception? I mean, I don't know.
It's scary. But
finally, Coach of the Year.
We did say Sean McVay. We didn't.
Sean McVay. I think there's 3 standout coaches for me, and that's Sean McVay, Doug Peterson, and Doug Moran.
Right.
I can't look beyond those at the moment.
Sean McVay, Doug Peterson, but I also got Mike Zimmer.
Mike Zimmer.
Viking.
Yeah. Well,
QB
I've always been a fan of his, a very great defensive mind. But again, It's just that the quarterback situation is going to mess that up for him. If he manages
But
to...
he's managing it with the quarterback issues.
They're 6-2. If he can pull that off till the end of the season and have a great record, like an 11-5, for example, then maybe.
I think they need to get to the championship game.
Yeah.
For me, Sean McVay doesn't need to get to the championship game to win.
He's already done
Coach of the Year. I don't
unexpected.
think Doug Marrone needs to get to the championship game to be Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
That's just how I'm looking at it, and that's why I left out Zimmer. Sure, they're doing a great job, but we're talking about the elite of the elite, and so my three are McVay, Marrone, and Pedersen.
Excellent.
And can't see beyond those.
Great. We'll wrap it up here. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We hope to see you back again when we go on video on YouTube.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be cool. I'll wear clothes next time.
We can wear pants, yeah.
I expect you to be in your jerseys.
Yeah. I'm wearing a
Just the jersey.
I've got a beige shirt. He's got an Eagles hat, but
Just the jerseys, baby.
Again, you can catch us, to all the listeners, you can catch us on SoundCloud, iTunes, your Apple Podcast app, Stitcher, Facebook, and YouTube. I know that there's been an absolutely amazing UFC card that just finished, UFC 217. We saw 3 championship belts change hands. So we're going to do our next podcast on the UFC, and it will be very, very soon. So keep an eye for that. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you very soon.